10 News is brought to you in high definition exclusively by Harper Auto Square. WBIR 10 News starts now.
It's terrifying to know that it's just right there behind me.
Flames are still burning at a North Knoxville recycling plant about 10 hours after it started. Fire officials say this fire could burn for days. We want to show you a live look at our breaking news coverage now from our sky cam, and you can see this is what it looks like, a glow that can be seen across much of Knoxville. Mandatory evacuation order remains in effect, and this was up to about 100 homes this evening. That fire is contained, but fire bosses say that does not mean it's under control. They are watching hot spots, and parts of it are flaming tonight.
And the evacuation area covers about a 13-block area. As John mentioned, about 100 households evacuated. They are now being allowed to go to the Emerald Youth Foundation to spend the night during this evacuation. The American Red Cross is partnering with the Emerald Youth Foundation to provide a place for these people. Now, let's tell you a little bit about this recycling plant. It is located on Hancock Street. Here, crews say wood, fire, plastics, they are received here and they are burning here tonight at this plant.
The owner, Jason Bales, told 10 News earlier today that he owns this business with his brother. They acquired it in 2011. Bales says he was in shock over the enormous fire and repeated explosions, likely from propane tanks, that we heard kicking off early in the firefight today.
We are live here on the scene. We are on Hancock Street, and right behind me is the entrance to that facility. As we look back just moments ago, the flames still burning hot and firefighters still working this. We are going to bring you up to date on the very latest, from the temperature inversion to the investigation. All of that coming up in just a moment.
Captain DJ Corcoran just telling us on the scene that parts of this fire burning at about 1,300 degrees, which can melt steel in a half hour to an hour. So it is certainly a concern even into the night. Knox County Schools does say that all schools will be open. We checked in with them earlier tonight. The fire department does say this fire was most likely caused from a backfire on a forklift. Heavy pieces of machinery work right behind us day in, day out. We saw lots of smoke, and then, as we mentioned earlier, we heard those explosions kick off. Take a listen.
Now, a viewer sent us this video of the loud booms people were hearing during the fire. Yes, those booms were explosions. People who worked next to the fire say they actually heard them. They opened the door, and all they could see at that point was smoke.
I was being told to get out, and just yelling, "Get out, you have to get out." It's really pretty frightening to look up above the building and see that much smoke, because it's directly next door. I mean, what you can see behind us, imagine being within 50 feet. Yeah, and it's billowing.
Everyone inside was able to make it out safely. About 25 people working in this plant. They drove out of the area, and they said it was like running away from a tornado.
A frightening scene, and several few hours for lots of people around this neighborhood. We're going to check in first tonight with our colleague Brandon Bates, who has more on the evacuees tied to this fire. Brandon?
Well, good evening, Robin and John. The community has really stepped up in this time of need today during this fire. The Emerald Youth Academy has teamed up with the American Red Cross to provide shelter for the evacuees and to provide some food for them if they need it. They say they've had over 20 people come in and out today, those people looking for that food and shelter. One evacuee says she just hopes this fire is put out soon.
He was really afraid when he heard the propane tanks exploding. He was shivering, and he was hovering underneath the table and coming up to me.
Fire and billowing smoke forces people out of their homes in North Knoxville.
The hardest thing was when the gas propane things were going off. It sounded like a bomb going off.
Businesses had no choice but to close.
It's been kind of hectic. The power was out at my restaurant, and I went ahead and made the decision to close down tonight.
Kind of crazy, power going out.
You need somewhere to go tonight?
We want to be there for them.
Community groups like the Salvation Army and Emerald Youth Academy stepped up to offer shelter for those displaced.
We are in the Canteen Emergency Disaster Relief Vehicle. They need somewhere to go tonight because they're without power and all this. They can come down to the Army.
This one's Daisy.
People like Mary Clifton had no choice but to come to the Emerald Youth Shelter once authorities made her evacuate her home.
Then we're waiting on them to say it's time to go, and we got that, and they came up and you gotta go now.
Clifton doesn't know what she'll return to when she is able to go home. The one thing she does hope to find is her cat.
I have a cat back there right now, and I don't know if he's okay because he jumped out of my arms and he left. So I'm hoping he's okay.
And for those of you who still might be displaced tonight, the address here at the Emerald Youth Academy is 1718 Central Street. Like I said, they have food, shelter. The American Red Cross has cots if you need a place to sleep. Robin and John will send it back to you.
Brandon Bates with that angle to this live breaking coverage.
With that, we want to bring in now 10 News reporter Shannon Smith. Shannon, you spent a good portion of the day in this neighborhood talking to people who were watching this play out and obviously very concerned about what they were seeing, smelling, and hearing.
Great descriptions, because all these people were out here for hours. I mean, they were sitting on their porch just watching this burn. And a lot of them, once they realized that they were going to be okay, they weren't evacuated, they were kind of just taking in the sights and the sounds. But the people who were evacuated are still not back yet, wondering what's going to be happening to them.
And to have this in your front yard is pretty incredible.
Allison Clare made herself a front row seat to watch the fire in North Knoxville.
Well, I was in my backyard and I heard a boom and happened to look up in the sky and saw a large plume of black smoke.
A few blocks down, Sharon Bell heard and saw the same from her house, closer to the plant.
And I called him and I said, Shane, is that close to our house? He said, right behind us.
Family from all over called to make sure she was okay.
The smoke, I mean, my cousin called from Straw Plains and he said he could sit there.
Neighbors sat outside and watched as cars drove in from all over to get a closer look at the smoke.
People were over off of Clinton Highway coming over here to see what all of this was about.
Everyone just taking in the destruction.
It's kind of spectacular and creepy all at the same time.
Claire and Belle did not evacuate, but down the road, closer to the fire, Cheryl Austin didn't have a choice.
Here we're displaced. They did let us in to get our medicines and our clothes.
This is the last thing Austin wanted to deal with today.
Well, get back in her home and get our son buried. And
she said it could be a few days before she's back in her house.
I just hope they get this mess straightened up so we don't have to deal with this.
Until then, neighbors will keep watching the flames burn down the road.
Pull some chairs out and just sitting here watching all the chaos.
And we met a lot of people today who decided to evacuate by their own choice, just in case the smoke were to move. Great choice, because as of tonight, it's been about 100 homes evacuated. So those people just kind of waiting on edge to see when they can get back home.
Yeah, better to be safe than sorry, for sure. All right, Shannon, thank you.
Certainly wasn't just in this immediate area that people saw that big, massive smoke plume today. We had reports from Jefferson County of people seeing it there. Also from Blount County, we could see it with our Skycam at the airport. And how about this? We have pictures of debris that moved some 12 to 15 miles in the air before landing. This was from Coreyton that one viewer sent us, burning debris some 12 to 15 miles from where we're standing.
And as you would well expect, the Knox County Health Department saying smoke from fires like this one certainly can impact air quality. People impacted differently. If you live in this area and you are having trouble breathing or you're having chest pain and it doesn't get better when you go inside, you do want to seek medical attention. Now, the effects of smoke, it can range from eye and respiratory tract irritation to reduced lung function, even heart failure. The people most at risk, those with heart and lung disease, adults over 65, and of course, children and pregnant women.
And we have taken reports throughout the evening from people in Fountain City and other parts of North Knoxville who have felt the effects of the inversion that our meteorologists were talking about and warning about would happen with this fire. Fortunately, the rain has stopped, but let's talk more about where this smoke may go over the next few hours with Chief Meteorologist Todd Howell. Todd?
Yeah, John and Robin, the impact of that more stable, cooler air with light diminishing winds is already causing the smoke to hover closer to the ground. And we had those rain showers moving right across North Knoxville as well. And that, while it does help to dampen the fire a little bit, it's kind of like a big old campfire. You know, if you just throw a little bit of water on it, it's just going to continue to cause it to smoke and smolder, right? And they're doing a great job, the firefighters are, but it's not just a little bit of water it takes to put out that fire, right? It takes a lot of water. So we still have the smoke and the smoldering. And again, so the rain, the cooler, more stable air, that cooler, more stable air is heavier. And so that air sinks down closer to the ground. It takes the smoke with it. So that's the impact of what we call an inversion. It's just more of a stable, cooler layer of air that's causing that smoke to sink closer to the ground. While we had the winds, again, some 10 to 15 miles away, it carried debris off, but now we have lighter winds overnight and in the morning, and with that cooler air dropping down and staying in the 60s, here's your morning forecast. Some smoke across North Knox in the morning, 63, 65 at 8 a.m., very mild start, and in the 70s at 10 a.m. So we have had some heavier downpours, some power outages in Lenore City, heavier showers now Athens, Sweetwater, Tellico Plains, and some of that rain has died off. I'll be back with another chance for spotty thunder showers coming up for your Thursday and Friday, and we'll talk much more about the impacts of weather on the smoke plume into our Thursday as well. John and Robin, back to you.
Todd, we appreciate it.
Well, state records show a 2018 inspection of the Fort Loudon Waste and Recycling plant does remain open. That January inspection led to more than $15,000 in fines for the plant. It was fined for 18 citations and 2 repeat violations. Those include problems like sanitation, control of hazardous energy, and machinery problems. It was also inspected in February and June of 2018. The June inspection led to $5,700 in fines, and those violations cited a requirement that an employer operate place-free from hazards.
And we want to talk about some road closures, this mainly impacting the people who live in and around this area. Those roads that are closed at the moment, Pershing, West Morelia, Burwell, and Hancock, as well as Atlantic and West Glenwood. Again, closed for local traffic, and it's unclear just when they may reopen.
Of course, our coverage will continue throughout the night and online. There you can find the very latest on the information involving the evacuations, the shelters that have been set up, and what you need to know about this smoke and the flames. All that right now at WBIR.com. And of course, our coverage continuing tomorrow morning at 4 o'clock on 10 News Today.
The big thing to keep in mind as we head into the overnight hours, how will firefighters get a handle on the hot spots that are still left in this fire? We can see them from our tower cam. We'll be watching that overnight, and also the impact of the smoke. Will the inversion cause more to lay down? Something we'll be keeping our eye on. We're going to pause and take a break right now. Back with more coverage right after this.
Well, there are now 5 confirmed measles cases in Tennessee. The State Department of Health updated its count online this afternoon. Health officials say this case is related to the other cases, and the best way to protect yourself is to get the vaccine. Another vaccine we often hear about is the flu vaccine. The Knox County Health Department says both the measles vaccine and the flu shot are equally important. But fewer people get the flu vaccine because you need it every year, unlike the measles vaccine, which is usually only needed once. Experts say just like the flu, the fewer people who get vaccinated, the more cases we'll see.
The bad news about measles is we're seeing more cases because people are choosing not to vaccinate. And, you know, just like the flu, we'll see more cases because fewer people get vaccinated. We see a lot of flu in the country. Just like the flu, we'll see more measles each year as people continue to choose not to vaccinate.
She goes on to say the good news is there is about an 80% vaccination rate for the measles. That's compared to the 30 to 50% of people who get the flu vaccine. Well, the outbreaks and vaccination can stir up a lot of questions. You can find many of those answers on our website, things like symptoms of the measles, proper vaccination, and when you might need a booster. You can find that all at WBIR.com. Electric scooters are back in Knoxville. A problem with geofencing forced the scooters off the street for a month. Now a second company dropped off even more scooters, and there are some differences. The scooters vary in price, speed, and braking, as well as boundaries. You can find out where you can and can't go on the apps for the scooters. One area that's off limits, Market Square. and everyone should remember safety.
I do think that's going to be something new for all of us as we drive our cars around. We do need to be mindful, but we should have always been mindful for bicycles. So the scooters are just the same sort of thing. Just be watching, and it's, rules of the road.
Another rule, no riding on the sidewalks. Those are reserved for walking. You must ride on the streets, and helmets are strongly encouraged. Well, there are no tax increases in Mayor Glenn Jacobs' proposed budget. He presented the spending plan this morning. Jacobs allocated money for raises for county employees, including approximately 6% for sheriff's deputies and 3.5% for certified teachers and other school employees.
With our teachers and our sheriff's deputies both, we're in competition with other counties and other areas. And if we want to have good people in those positions, we have to be able to be competitive when it comes to salaries.
The budget also includes money for new schools at Lonsdale and Adrian Barnett and in Northwest Knox County. Funding for Knox County schools makes up 63% of the $850 million budget. The County Commission must vote to approve the budget. Todd back with us on the news desk, and our crews continue to monitor the flames at the waste and recycling plant in North Knoxville.
Right.
And Todd, let's talk more about this. We've seen how wind and rain have impacted this fire.
Yes.
Earlier today, the wind kept it high in the atmosphere.
Right.
Tonight, as you predicted, that rain pushing it, those harmful fumes, down to the ground.
Down to the ground. So within a mile or two, specifically across North Knoxville, that's where there's a higher concentration of a little bit more of those pollutants and something you really don't want to be breathing in. And so certainly HVAC systems within about a mile, mile and a half, or maybe 2 miles downstream in North Knoxville. And again, specifically, those areas have been identified. Yeah, maybe a good idea to certainly keep those windows closed, because specifically just about a mile or two within the radius of Hancock Street in North Knoxville, we're still seeing this smoke plume, and it is certainly, number one, as Beth just said, exactly, winds are lighter, so the smoke is not being dispersed as easily, and the temperatures have cooled down to the rain showers moving in, a little bit of an inversion setting up, more of a cooler, more stable layer. So that allows the cool air sinks, right? Warm air rises. So during this afternoon, we have warm, windy conditions. The air is rising and the winds are dispersing the smoke downstream, and most of it's aloft. Now it's sinking and hovering closer to the ground, especially, as I mentioned, specifically within 1 to 2 miles of the area across North Knox County. So those are the areas of really concern tonight, and you can just see just the slow movement, right? You remember watching it throughout the day today, streaming it live? Yeah, we were all watching that huge black plume of smoke drifting on downstream. So right now we're looking at a lighter wind. The latest check at the airport, winds are south-southwest, still about 7 miles per hour. It's 70 degrees. The pressure now rising, dew point 63 degrees. A lot of humidity, moisture in the air, so it's a little bit more stagnant tonight. So with a lighter wind, stagnant air, and again, more stable conditions, we're just not going to have much of that smoke dispersing. And our wind forecast, it stays light to start off in the morning. So what the impact from weather will be in the morning is to allow some of that smoke to hover specifically near the surface in North Knox County. Until we get midday, noontime into the afternoon, winds should become a little bit more breezy, generally about 5 to 15 miles per hour. Our futurecast is showing some more breezy winds across the plateau in the Western Valley by afternoon and early evening. That will mix the air and the smoke back out, so expecting similar conditions tomorrow afternoon and evening, what we saw today as far as the breezy winds go. Again, from the southwest direction to the northeast, and that will generally stay that way as far as the wind direction into our Friday. So another warm, unseasonably warm day tomorrow, warm and humid, 83 for the high, spotty thunder showers expected to redevelop in the afternoon, backtracking 77 at noon, pretty warm, and we start off 63. Some of that smoke and clouds specifically in North Knoxville early in the morning. Here's the replay on radar. Heavier thunder showers, some power outages around Lenoir City, some gusty winds. That pretty much weakened as it moved closer to Knoxville. Right now, not nearly as much activity. Scattered showers, Madisonville toward Von Orr, Sweetwater, and Monroe County. It's all moving to the northeast, but most of us somewhat drier. Again, here's the fire spot right here in North Knox County, just north of Knoxville. And again, we're seeing generally dry conditions right now. So there's a look at the thunderstorm activity from earlier. We'll have another chance for those spotty thunder showers the next couple of days. Looks like we'll see increasing chances for scattered thunder showers to start the weekend Saturday. Less chances Sunday and a little bit more seasonable with temperatures by then in the 70s. And certainly we'll keep you updated tonight and throughout the day tomorrow, Beth.
All right, Todd, thank you. We appreciate it. Well, coming up, it's only May, but it's already been a big year for Kelsey Ballerini. Hear from her about her big goals she's reached. An Opry induction and arena tour 2019 off to a great start for Kelsey Ballerini. We had an honest conversation backstage at the Opry. The Knoxville native says she's just trying to process it all.
The newest member of the Grand Ole Opry, Kelsey Ballerini.
Hi.
Hi.
An official member
Yes.
of the Opry.
Mm-hmm.
How are you feeling about that?
It's crazy. I mean, I'm a very goal and dream oriented person. I feel like that's always kind of been what's driven me as an aspiring singer-songwriter in country music. This was like the place that this was at the very top of my bucket list, you know? And so I remember when I put my first single out, I was always really vocal about wanting to play here and wanting to somehow be a part of this world. And the Opry reached out really early on and let me come play here and debut here before I even had a hit. And so they've been, to me, already family ever since. But we just get to make it official.
Kelsey feels like she's on the fast track, but she's been working on a country career since age 12.
I feel like it's all happened relatively quickly because it's only been 5 years since I've put out my first single. Honestly, just watching it go from writing songs, you know, in my bedroom by myself to getting to write with the people that made me want to write songs and going to concerts and singing in the nosebleeds to getting to perform with those people that I went to go see. That's been the craziest part. And tonight there's going to be one of those moments with someone that I haven't sang with yet that I'm freaking out about.
Mama said, girl, you won't get far.
Sharing the mic with Carrie Underwood, unforgettable. But so was Little Big Town inviting her to join the Opry.
You wanna join the Opry?
2019 will be hard to top, touring with Kelly Clarkson, the Opry induction, headlining an arena tour, even a crossover hit with the Chainsmokers.
They were just texting me because it just went platinum today.
Congrats.
Which is really cool. Music is music, and I think as a songwriter it's important for me to be able to know what's going on in every genre and be influenced by it.
Kelsey's Miss Me More tour goes through May, and then?
I'm gonna make a record. I'm gonna take a minute. I've toured every summer the last 5 years, and I'm gonna take this summer to kind of just be 25 and write about it and make the best album that I can make, and first single will be later this year.
And Kelsey says she'll always bring her music home to Knoxville.
And I get to bring every tour that I do back to Knoxville, and I'll always do that. I think it's important to kind of check back in with your family and your friends and where you grew up.
And Kelsey says look for a few more non-country collaborations on her next album as she continues to expand her horizon, stretching her country roots. Well, coming up, you could soon live in the home owned by another country music and East Tennessee icon. What we know about the home that's for sale, coming up. Well, if you're looking for a new home, you could soon live in a home owned by Severa's favorite daughter, the former Nashville home of Dolly Parton. It's now up for sale. Parton owned the home from the 1980s to 1996. The 3,200 square feet home includes a shed with an addition added on for Dolly's nieces and nephews to play in. A listing price for the property has not been given. Pretty neat opportunity.
There's that.
Any takers? Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. News continuing tomorrow on 10 News and online.